AITA for pretending I didn't speak German while my wife revealed her affair right in front of me? My name is Ethan Carter. I'm 34 and I work as a financial consultant at a firm in Chicago that never seems to sleep. I'm the classic guy who answers emails at 11 p.m. just to have a calmer morning. In my family, I've always been the responsible one, the one with his head on straight, which in practice means the one who pays. I have some bad habits. I bite my nails, I check my banking app at least 3 times a day just in case, and I say yes to anything that smells like extra work. My daily rituals are just as ridiculous. Black coffee as soon as I wake up, mentally reviewing the month's bills while I shower, checking my email for any new receipts, and texting my mother on Sundays at 9 a.m. Always at the same time. I'm the type to knock on wood before saying something good and to avoid signing important documents on a Friday the 13th. I don't believe in much, except that if you work hard and are a good person, things will turn out well. I was married. Legally, I still am. To Lauren Carter, 32, an executive assistant at a German logistics company that opened a U.S. headquarters a couple of years ago. Lauren was always more charismatic than me, more fun, more lighthearted. She was the one who could walk into a dinner party and know everyone within 5 minutes. I was the one holding the coats and paying for the Uber home. To her family, I was a good catch, stable, hardworking, with no strange vices. I smoke very occasionally when I'm really stressed, but nobody knows. I hide it like it's a serious crime. I don't party. I don't spend on expensive cars. I don't gamble. Everything I had was always for the future, for the house, for the children we would one day have. That, someday, became Lauren's obsession when she turned 30. A few months ago, she got a promotion. She went from being the person who schedules meetings to being the right hand of the new German boss, Klaus Richter. A typical tall, blonde guy, overly sure of himself. The first day she mentioned him at home, she told me, "He's demanding, but I think if I do a good job, he can help me climb much higher." And she looked at me with that mix of excitement and calculation. "And if I move up, we both move up." I nodded, as always, because I'm an idiot, but a consistent one. If she was growing, I was happy. What Lauren didn't know is that I had lived in Hamburg for a year when I was 23 on a study abroad program, and that my German, though rusty, was pretty decent. The subject never came up because, why would it? No one in my circle spoke German, and it's not something you typically bring up at a barbecue. One Friday, she came home with a smile that was a little too perfect. She had bought an expensive bottle of wine to celebrate something. I thought it was about work. The kitchen smelled of frozen lasagna from the supermarket, but she seemed nervous, like she was acting. "Ethan, honey," she said, sitting across from me. "Klaus wants to invite us to dinner. Just the 3 of us. He says he wants to meet you, that you're an important part of my stability." I laughed. "Your boss wants to meet your personal accountant. How thoughtful." She tapped my hand. "Don't be silly. He wants to meet you because..." She stood up, opened a drawer, and took out something small. "Because we're going to be parents." Right then, my world stopped for a second. The test had 2 very clear lines. I felt something I can't even explain. Fear, joy, vertigo, all mixed together. I hugged her so tightly the chair almost tipped over. We had been trying for over a year, with doctors, tests, and expensive treatments that came, of course, out of my account. I thought, finally, something is going right for us. She proposed the dinner for the following Saturday at an expensive restaurant downtown where I would have never dared to go alone. "Klaus is treating," she said. "It's to celebrate the promotion, the baby, everything. Just promise me one thing, okay? Anything you want. Don't talk about money, bills, or any of that. He's German, you know how they are, and I don't want him to think I'm materialistic." The sentence stung a little, but I let it go. After all, I was always talking about money. It's what I did for a living. The night of the dinner arrived. I was in my only decent blazer, and she was in a new dress that I, of course, had paid for, because she didn't have anything suitable for a restaurant like that. We took a taxi because showing up on the L train wouldn't look right. All normal in our dynamic. The restaurant was one of those places with dim lights, waiters who whisper, and glasses of wine more expensive than my usual lunch. Klaus was already waiting at the table with a smile straight out of an ad and a glass of white wine in his hand. "Ethan, so nice to finally meet you," he said in perfect English. I shook his hand, switching to my office English. Everything seemed cordial, almost boring. We talked about work, about Chicago, the weather, trivial things. I was so happy about the baby that anything seemed fine to me. At one point, Klaus looked at Lauren and said something quickly in German, very naturally. "Wenn du willst, können wir Deutsch reden. Weniger astringent." If you want, we can speak German. It's less stressful. Lauren laughed nervously. ACH, Quatsch, she replied, also in German. Solange es Wein und Fleisch gibt, ist glücklich. Oh, nonsense. As long as there's wine and meat, he's happy. I brought the glass to my lips to hide my expression. I said nothing. I kept smiling like the idiot they thought I was. And then came the sentence. The one that brought me here. Lauren caressed her belly, looked at Klaus with a calmness that still turns my stomach, and said very slowly in German, Kein Sorge. Der Idiot ist so glücklich über die Schwangerschaft, dass dein kein großein Wort und Glot, esa Saints. Don't worry. The idiot is so happy about the pregnancy that he'll raise your child believing it's his. I felt my blood run cold, but my hand didn't shake. I calmly poured myself more wine, took a deep breath, and continued to pretend I didn't understand a thing. What they didn't know was that in that moment, at that table, something inside me clicked, and my entire life began to turn around. To understand how I ended up sitting there, listening to my wife call the man she thought would be her child's father an idiot, you have to go back a bit. Not too far, but far enough. I met Lauren in college, at a shabby student apartment party. I was the finance major who was already working at an accounting firm in the afternoons. She was studying communications, smoked in secret on the balcony, and wore red lipstick at 8 in the morning. She spoke to me because she needed help with her freelance taxes for some modeling jobs. I was hooked. From the beginning, the dynamic was clear. I was the serious one, the organizer, the planner. She was the spontaneous one, the don't worry, we'll figure it out type. I even liked that about her. I thought we balanced each other out. When we started living together, things got tougher. I was working full-time at the consulting firm, plus overtime, just in case we need the savings. She jumped from one precarious job to another. Always underpaid, always with bosses who didn't value her. It's not that I don't want to work, Ethan, she would tell me many nights, sprawled on the couch watching Netflix while I reviewed spreadsheets on my laptop. It's that I don't want to live a bitter life like you. I would laugh because, in my head, being bitter meant paying the rent, the utilities, the gas for the car, the dinners out. My salary became the foundation for everything. At first, I didn't mind. I paid the rent, the bills, the car payment, the dinners out. She would say, when I find something stable, I'll make it up to you. I'll treat you to everything. That, when never came. What did arrive were her parents. They were friendly, loud, and a financial disaster. Her father had been running a half-empty bar for years that only filled up for Bears games, and barely then. Her mother was always complaining of aches and had no desire to work, but plenty of desire to offer her opinion. The first time they asked for money, it was a one-time favor. Ethan, son, my father-in-law said over the phone. The bank is being difficult about the bar's mortgage. It's $600. We'll pay you back next month. That next month never came. But another month did, one in which her parents' washing machine suddenly died, and then the car's brakes failed. And then a dental emergency for Lauren's brother, a 27-year-old professional slacker named Jordan who lived off birthdays and excuses. I made the transfers, tightened my belt even more, and repeated the same phrase to myself. It's family. Someday they'll appreciate it. At every Sunday lunch at my in-laws' house, there were comments. Thank goodness Lauren found a responsible man, her mother would say, serving me casserole as a reward. You're one of those who knows money comes and goes. It sounded like a compliment, but it wasn't. What it really meant was, you provide, and we receive. Then came the wedding. I wanted something simple. She wanted photos at a countryside venue, a dress out of a magazine, a DJ, a photo booth, the whole Instagram package. We ran the numbers. Look, I told her, with what we have saved, we can have a small, nice wedding and still be okay. If you want something bigger, we'll have to cut back on the condo down payment or vacations. She made that offended little girl face I knew so well. You're always like this. I don't want to feel like I'm less than my friends. They all had beautiful weddings. Why can't I? Because you're cheap. That word hurt more than it should have. Cheap. The same guy who had been paying off her family's debts for 2 years. In the end, as always, I gave in. A personal loan in my name, a big wedding, beautiful photos, and me with a 5-year credit line hanging around my neck. When we tried to save for a condo, the pattern repeated. I sacrificed trips, splurges, new clothes. She didn't as much. You can't ask me to live like a nun, she'd say. Besides, if I don't go out with you, then you complain that we never do anything. When we finally secured a mortgage, it was with my pay stubs, my tax returns, my credit score. She was on a temporary contract. It's just paper. she said when the closing agent explained that the condo would be 100% in my name. What's important is that it's ours. I wanted to believe her. The issue of children was even worse. It wasn't happening. Time passed. The test showed nothing wrong, but the positive result never appeared. Lauren became obsessed. We have to go to a private clinic, she insisted. I'm not going to spend years on a waiting list. The treatments were expensive, very expensive. My insurance covered a part of it. The rest went on a credit card. One day, looking at the transactions, I saw a charge from the clinic we hadn't discussed. What's this? I asked, showing her my phone. She didn't even blink. An extra test they did on me. Don't worry, we'll sort it out later. Always later, always don't worry. Everything started to shift when she joined the German company. Suddenly, she had a decent salary and a foreign boss. She began buying serious office attire, getting her nails done every 2 weeks because everyone there looks perfect. I was happy for her. She was finally earning well. But curiously, my financial burden didn't decrease. I'm saving my salary, she told me one night. In case something happens, it's good for one of us to have a cushion. That one of us wasn't exactly me. With the arrival of Klaus, the new boss, things accelerated. He's a genius, Ethan, she'd tell me. Very demanding, yes, but he has connections in Germany. If I play my cards right, I could end up at headquarters. She started coming home later. Meetings, project deadlines, drinks with the team, nothing out of the ordinary. When I made a comment, the response was always the same. You don't understand how the international corporate world works. She started demanding strange things. I need a better laptop. Mine is slow, even though the company had already given her one. I want one for home so I don't mix things up. It wouldn't be a bad idea to change the car. I'm embarrassed for Klaus to see me get out of this piece of junk. Can we send more money to my parents this month? The bar is doing terribly, and besides, you earn good money. I would argue a little, draw a line here and there, but in the end, I almost always gave in. I didn't want to be the husband holding back his wife's career. I didn't want to be the bad guy in the movie. The small breaking point came on a random Tuesday. I was making a spending spreadsheet and saw a strange transaction in our joint account. $100 to her brother Jordan's account. Memo, car. What's this, Lauren? I asked when she got home. She sighed, tossing her purse onto a chair. Oh, Ethan, don't start. Jordan's car broke down, and he needs it to look for work. And why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you'd make a scene. He's my family. Okay, someday your parents might need help too. My parents don't ask me for $100 out of the blue. Lauren crossed her arms. Well, if it bothers you that much, I'll take it out of my account. There. Okay, do it. I looked at her intently. She held my gaze for 2 seconds, then looked away at her phone. I can't right now. I'm in the red. Next month. Next month never came. And I was left with my numbers, my spreadsheets, and the ugly feeling that I was the only one playing by the rules. Still, when we finally saw that double line on the test, everything else faded away. I thought, it doesn't matter what happened before. A new chapter is starting now. Now we'll really be a team. How wrong I was. Let's go back to the restaurant, to that perfectly set table where I watched my distorted reflection in the wine glass, while my wife planned my ruin in another language. She had just told her boss, in German, that I would raise his child as my own, convinced I understood nothing. Inside, I was burning, but on the outside, I was still the same old Ethan, polite, calm, a little awkward. I slowly poured myself more wine. I counted to 10 in German in my head, trying not to hurl the glass at the wall. Klaus smiled, also in German. Ist nützlich. Solange Result, ist alles gut. He's useful. As long as he pays, everything is fine. Lauren laughed. Of course. He's happy believing this is all our project. The house, the treatments. If only he knew you paid for part of it. I felt my blood run cold. You paid for part of it. They started talking about details. About hotel nights on business trips. About what they'd do when the baby was born. We'll see how we can get him to sign everything. I heard every word like a hammer blow. They spoke about me as if I wasn't there. He's very predictable, Lawrence said. You just have to cry a little and talk about the future and family. He opens his wallet. I know the type, Klaus responded. We Germans call them Zollisel. Paying donkeys. The one who always ends up paying. They were calling me a donkey to my face, less than 2 feet away. At one point, Lauren let slip. The best part is that all the debts are in his name. The wedding loan, the mortgage. I'm clean. If things go wrong, he's left with the whole mess. I took a deep breath. I felt something inside me click. It was a strange sensation, like when you finally see the solution to a problem you've been stuck on for years. It hurt, but it also made everything clear. I carefully placed my glass on the table. I glanced around for a second. Other tables, people eating, a waiter passing with a tray. No one knew that for me. That second was the end of one life and the beginning of another. I turned to them, smiled slowly, and in the clearest German I have ever spoken, I said, "When schon vorhabt, Michigan zum Idioten zu machen, Dan kentet es when Nixon zum IT, et was mehr Respekt ton." If you're already planning to make a fool of me, you could at least do it with a little more respect. The silence that fell over the table was beautiful. Lauren's mouth hung open, her hand still on her belly. Klaus blinked like a fish out of water. "You speak German?" she stammered, switching to English. "Since before I met you," I replied, now in English. "A year living in Hamburg is good for more than just beer. But don't worry, Klaus. I understand perfectly when you call me a paying donkey." The boss looked away, uncomfortable. "Ethan, I think there's been a misunderstanding." I cut him off, raising my hand. No confusion. I understood very well. The idiot, meaning me, is so happy about the pregnancy that he's going to raise another man's child. The debts are in his name. She's clean. You provide the fun and a little money now and then. A perfect deal. Lauren tried to regain control. She put on a victim face in a split second. "Ethan, please, lower your voice. People are looking." "They should look more," I said, not raising my voice, but not lowering it either. "Maybe they'll learn not to make deals like this." I took out my phone, opened the banking app, turned the brightness all the way up, and held it in front of Lauren. "See this list of transfers to your brother's account? To your parents? To that clinic that, as it turns out, wasn't just for fertility? Because I already called them this afternoon before coming here. Curious that they have Klaus registered as a regular companion, isn't it?" Lauren turned white. "You went through my things. That's an invasion of privacy, Ethan." I laughed without humor. "What's invasive is bringing another guy into our bed while I'm working overtime to pay for your whims and your families. What's invasive is deciding I'm going to raise a child that isn't mine as if it were. And on top of that, laughing about it in another language." Klaus tried to intervene again. "Ethan, this is between you and Lauren." You shut up?" I cut him off in German. "You have enough to worry about explaining to your wife why your assistant is pregnant with your child. Because I assume she knows you're living a double life here in Chicago, or doesn't she understand either?" I noticed the waiter approaching slowly, hesitantly. "Is everything all right here?" he asked. "Perfectly," I said, pulling my card from my pocket. "I'd just like to check. This will be the last time I pay for anything where I'm disrespected." Lauren switched tactics. She went from arrogant to crying in 10 seconds. "Ethan, honey, you're misinterpreting everything. You're emotional because of the pregnancy, the stress. We can talk about this at home. Don't make a scene. Think about the baby." I looked her in the eyes. "I'll think about the baby. Yes, about getting a paternity test as soon as it's born. If the child is mine, I'll be the best father I can be. If it's not, I'll see to it he's with his actual father. And you and your boss can figure it out however you want." "How can you say that?" she yelled, forgetting to keep her voice down. "You're a monster." "No, I'm a guy who's finally tired of being the household wallet." I took out my phone again, opened the banking app in front of their faces, and while I waited for the check, I started doing things. I canceled her access as an authorized user on my credit card. I canceled the recurring transfers to her parents. "Tomorrow morning, I'm going to the bank to revoke your access to the joint account." "You can't do that," she whispered. "We need that money." "No, you need it to keep playing at having two lives. I need it to rebuild mine." The waiter left the bill. I paid, left a tip, and stood up. This is the last dinner I pay for where I'm the main course. I looked at Klaus. "Veal Gluck, you're going to need it." I turned, left Lauren crying and calling me selfish, and disappeared from the restaurant with a shattered heart, but with a cold clarity I hadn't felt in years. That night, for the first time, I set real boundaries, and they weren't going to be just words. When I got home, I didn't do what I always did. I didn't sit down to talk it out calmly. I didn't try to understand her side of the story. I didn't blame myself for not seeing the signs. I went straight to the closet, pulled out a suitcase, and started packing clothes, t-shirts, pants, my work laptop, chargers. While I was packing socks, my phone rang. "Lauren." I let it ring. 5 missed calls, then texts. "You're overreacting. Come back, please, let's talk. You can't just leave like this. I need you to take me to the doctor tomorrow. If you really love me, you won't leave me alone right now." I kept folding clothes. I knew myself. I knew that if I heard her voice in that moment, I would give in. I needed time and distance to avoid falling back into the role of Saint Ethan, the understanding one. I called my friend Marcus, the only person I had half told about the money issues. "Can I crash on your couch for a few days?" I asked. "Of course. What happened?" "I'll tell you later. Just have some cold beer ready." I hung up. Before leaving the condo, I went to the file drawer. I grabbed the condo deed, the clinic contracts, the bank documents. I took pictures of everything. I sat for a moment at the living room table, opened my laptop, and wrote an email to my boss. Subject: urgent personal matter. I'll be out for a few days. I'll finish the project from a friend's house. Thank you for your understanding. I didn't even mention the word divorce. It was still hard to say. In the Uber to Marcus's place, I logged into the banking app again. I transferred most of the money from the joint account to my personal one, leaving a small margin for basic monthly expenses to clear. Nothing more. I scheduled an appointment at the bank for first thing Monday morning. Then I texted my in-laws in the family group chat where they always posted pictures of the empty bar and memes about family is everything. From today on, I will no longer be able to help you financially. I wish you the best. It took them 3 minutes to react. First, Lauren's mother. "What is this nonsense, Ethan?" Then her father. "Did something happen with work, son? Can we talk?" And finally, Lauren. "Can you stop causing drama in the group chat? You're making yourself look terrible." I didn't reply. The following days were a strange mix of pain and relief. I slept poorly, waking up with a racing heart, but at the same time, I felt something like lightness. Marcus let me be in his living room with my laptop, my papers, and my coffee without asking too many questions. "I'm only going to say one thing," he told me one night while we were eating pizza. "You've been unhappy for years, and you didn't want to see it. The German boss thing is the cherry on top, but the cake has been rotten for a long time." He was right, and it hurt to admit it. On Monday, I went to the bank. The branch manager, who knew me from all the times I had come in to renegotiate terms to help my wife's family, looked at me with compassion. "Are you sure, Ethan?" "More than ever. We put everything in writing. Revoked Lauren's power of attorney over my accounts, reviewed the mortgage, which was luckily only in my name, and blocked any new direct debits without my authorization. After that, I went to a family lawyer recommended by a colleague. I told him everything, without embellishment. The infidelity, the potential child from another man, the money transfers. He listened in silence, taking notes. "First," he said, "we file for legal separation. Second, we petition the court for temporary orders. And as soon as the child is born, a court-ordered paternity test. If the child isn't yours, there's no child support obligation." I nodded, feeling a strange mix of sadness and satisfaction. Finally, someone was speaking clearly and not making me feel guilty for defending myself. Meanwhile, the emotional warfare on my phone intensified. Lauren alternated between pleading and threatening. "I can't make it without you. Don't you understand? You're going to leave an innocent baby without a father. My parents are devastated. They say you're selfish, and they're right. If you mention Klaus to anyone at work, I'll sue you for slander." There was one message that hurt more than the rest. It was from her mother. "I always knew you weren't as good as you seemed. A real man doesn't abandon his pregnant wife." I took a deep breath and replied only once, to all of them. "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm leaving a relationship in which I have been lied to, used, and betrayed. If the baby is mine, I'll assume my responsibility. If it's not, let the real father be responsible. From today on, for my mental health, anything important will be discussed through our lawyers." Silence. Then a mass exodus from the group chat. They did me a favor. In parallel, things started to move at Lauren's company. Not because I said anything, but because poorly kept secrets have a way of getting out. A colleague who knew someone in HR told me over coffee, "Your ex and the German guy are the talk of the office." Someone saw them at a hotel in Lake Geneva during work hours, and it seems Klaus's wife has already found out. Days later, I learned that Klaus was discreetly relocated to Germany and that Lauren was offered a negotiated exit. In plain English, they gave her a severance package to leave without making a scandal. She tried to call me again. This time, I answered. I needed to close that chapter. "They've taken everything from me," she cried. "My job, my stability. You were the only thing I had left." "I didn't take anything from you, Lauren," I said, tired. "You did this to yourself when you decided I was just a paying donkey." "I didn't mean that. I was nervous. I was just talking." "No, you were speaking your truth. That's why it hurts so much." She got angry. "You're so spiteful. You've always thought you were better than my family." "No, I just believe I'm equally worthy. And I'm done paying for the privilege of being disrespected. I hung up, blocked her number, and left only the channel with her lawyer open in case we needed to negotiate something. While the legal process moved forward, I started, for the first time in years, to live for myself. It sounds cliché, but it's true. I signed up for therapy. My therapist, a woman in her 50s, nailed it with her first sentence. You've spent half your life trying to earn people's love with money and sacrifices. Has it worked for you? No, it hadn't. I started doing absurdly simple things I hadn't even considered before. Going for a run along the lakefront without checking the time and thinking about bills. Saying no to extra projects at work. Spending money on a weekend trip with friends without feeling like I was stealing from someone. One night, while having beers, my younger cousin Danielle approached me, a bit shyly. I've heard things, she said. About Lauren, about everything. I just wanted to say I'm glad you left. My mom squeezes me for money too, and I thought it was normal because they did the same to you. We talked for hours. I realized my decision hadn't just broken a dynamic in my own life. It had also awakened others from the illusion that family can do whatever they want with you. The pregnancy continued on its course, now outside my direct orbit. I heard through the grapevine that Lauren had moved back in with her parents, that the bar was doing even worse, that they were complaining about their bad luck, and what a terrible man I was. I was only waiting for one thing, the paternity test. That was going to be the final piece of the puzzle. If the child were mine, I was prepared to be present, even if it was from another home and with a different kind of bond. If you weren't, I wanted it in writing so I could close the door completely. The day the baby was born, I received no direct message. I found out from a stolen photo sent to me by one of Lauren's old colleagues. A hospital bassinet, a little blue hat, the typical welcome cardstock sign. No mention of me, no daddy, in the caption. Just emojis and empty phrases. Through our lawyers, I formally requested the paternity test. There was resistance, drama, insults, but legally, there wasn't much they could do. I was still her husband on paper and had the right to know. The weeks waiting for the results were strange. There were moments when I caught myself imagining the child with my eyes, and others when I just wanted it to come back 0% so I could finally breathe. I felt guilty for thinking that way, but I also felt honest. I had been deceived too much to romanticize anything. The report arrived on a rainy Tuesday, the kind of day where I used to think, bad day to sign things. I opened it alone in my new rental apartment with a cup of cold coffee beside me. Probability of paternity, 0.000%. I stared at that line for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt a very strange calm, like when the construction noise from the apartment upstairs finally stops after months. I called my lawyer. I received it, I said. We're moving forward with the divorce and closing everything out. I don't want anything from her, just for the record to be clear that I'm not the father. He nodded on the other end. I'm sorry, Ethan. I already mourned it in the restaurant, I replied. Today, I'm just confirming what my gut already knew. The legal part was almost anticlimactic compared to the emotional drama that preceded it. Signatures, papers, court filings, division of assets. The condo remained in my name, and so did the debts. I preferred to take the whole package myself rather than open the door for her to get her hands where they didn't belong again. I was left with less money than I should have had, but with more peace than I ever imagined. Months later, I saw her on the street. It was at a shopping mall on a Saturday afternoon. She was pushing a stroller with the baby. Her parents were beside her, loaded down with cheap shopping bags. They had dark circles under their eyes and looked miserable. They passed a few feet away from me. Lauren saw me. Her eyes met mine for a second. She didn't greet me. I didn't either. I just glanced down at the child for an instant. I saw nothing of myself there, but I did see something clearly. This wasn't my story. This was no longer my responsibility. I kept walking. I bought a pair of expensive sneakers just because I felt like it, without any guilt. I met up with some friends for dinner, and when the bill came, I only paid my share. No more. I'll get it. Guys, I make good money. That character had died in that restaurant the day I stopped pretending I didn't speak German. Now, when I check my banking app, I no longer feel that knot in my stomach. There's less money than before, yes, but every dollar feels different. It feels truly mine. I pay my rent, my bills, and offer some occasional help to my parents because I want to, not because I'm being emotionally blackmailed. I've learned something that seems simple, but it took me a decade and a divorce to understand. Loving someone isn't about financing their life while they walk all over you. Love isn't about swallowing humiliation because they're family. or because she's your partner and you have to endure. I'm not a walking ATM. I'm not a paying donkey. I'm a person with boundaries, with the right to say enough, even if other people don't like it. I never thought I'd end up being that guy writing his story on the internet. But if someone reading this recognizes their current self in me, the one who pays for everything, the one who gets called cheap for daring to say no, the one who suspects but doesn't want to see, I want you to know something. Leaving hurts. Yes, it breaks things. It leaves you trembling. But it also gives you back something that no one should ever have been able to negotiate away from you. The freedom to live for yourself, not for someone else's wallet or ego. And believe me, no fake pregnancy, no German boss, and no offended mother-in-law is worth more than that. Comment. I hope this story served as a powerful reminder to you, as it did for me. Your worth is never defined by how much you can provide for others. Setting boundaries is not an act of aggression. It is an act of self-preservation. True kindness can't exist without first being kind to yourself. You always have the power to take back the pen and write a new chapter in your life. Healing begins the moment you decide you deserve better. Choosing your own peace over someone else's chaos is a victory in itself. It's never too late to demand the respect you freely give to others. Remember to be the main character in your own story, not just a supporting cast member in someone else's. Take care of yourself and know that you are enough, exactly as you are. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.